The Final Frontier. These are your adventures as you explore, seeking out new life and civilizations, expanding your borders and exploiting the resources you find, befriending allies, or exterminating the foes that get in your way.
Contact detected entering sector. Configuration unknown. Assessing. Initiating countermeasures.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, mad rush there to grab some coffee. As an old man now, I say, I don't have my teeth in, but you'll get that joke relative if you've watched this series before. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Star Trek New Worlds. My name's Tony. Thank you for joining us here today on Saturday, 11 o'clock in the morning, at least Pacific time, and whatever time it is around the world. If you are joining us for the very first time and are thinking to yourself, what in the world is this thing, Star Trek New Worlds? It is a turn-based strategy game that we play here online with you today on YouTube Live. We play it using or inspired by the rule set of Federation and Empire as published by the Amarillo Design Bureau. And the magic of the map that you will see here momentarily is produced through Vassal. But what are we talking about today? Well, if you like that thumbnail of the evil, ominous villain looking over the precious little chicks in that vulnerable little nest, yes, we're going to be talking about the future of the Paravians. Will they fall? Will they flounder? Will they fillet? I don't know. Only time will tell. And beyond that, we have dramatic events occurring within the Klingon Empire with the unveiling of a brand new product, as well as various tensions that are tying the galaxy together, or maybe is it tearing it apart? Only you will know if you follow us along here today. I think perhaps without any further ado, we should dive into the galactic news. Welcome to the Galactic News. If it's not true, we're not telling. Oh, yes. Fortunes of war. The Borak advance into Paravian space has continued, driving a wedge straight at the heart of the Avian Empire. Several skirmishes took place this month, pushing the Paravian Navy to the very doorstep of their homeworld. Borak ships have been reported in range of the homeworld, and pundits are beginning to wonder if this wild gambit might actually work. This question is likely to be answered in the very near future. That's no moon. The Klingons have launched a class of ship never before seen in the galaxy. Designated a battleship, the B-4B has twice the firepower and almost twice the mass of modern Dreadnought-class ships. I had a flashback of Aladdin for some reason. What was that scene in Aladdin? He's in the cave and they say, "Phenomenal cosmic power, leaving space." That's what I was thinking of. Anyway, I digress. Back to the news. While the time and expense of building such a craft would hamstring most economies, the Klingon economy is also in a class all its own. What will this behemoth of an empire do with this new juggernaut of a warship? Should the galaxy be trembling in terror of this galactic, titanic, technological trump card? Or should we rest easy that the Klingons have the capacity and the means to ensure peace for all? Oh, what's that? I'm getting news that we have a word from our sponsor. Life as a tripod has its trials and tribulations. In a galaxy filled with strange and wonderful creatures, there's only one problem that plagues them all: unruly tentacles. That's why you need Methane Mel's tentacle treatment. That's right. Say goodbye to tentacle troubles and hello to smooth, manageable appendages. Just one spray sends tentacles woes away. Our specially formulated formula is enriched with Hydron-approved ingredients, including organic methane extracts, fusion-enriched vitamins, and bicarbonate of borak, able to tame even the wildest of tentacles. That's right. Whether you're attending a diplomatic summit or just trying to enjoy a day out at Cloud City, Methane Mel's tentacle treatment has got you covered. Don't let unruly tentacles hold you back any longer. Try Methane Mel's tentacle treatment for hydrants today and let your tentacles do the talking, because every tentacle deserves a little TLC. And we're back. We come in peace. The interstellar Concordium has renewed their push into Borak space with a venerable wall of ships sweeping from the north like a yellow tide. Officials in ISC High Command have stated a growing need for stability in the region, as all Borak resources have been diverted to conduct the war in Paravian space. In typical ISC terminology, they will serve as custodians of these ex-Borak areas until the crisis passes. Ball of yarn. The Carnivons are also moving forward into Borak space, though slower. They attacked and captured the newly independent world in Sector Kilo 17 and have consolidated their navy on the border. It looks as if a renewed and energetic offensive may be on the horizon. With the Borak busy fighting the Paravians, they are ill-equipped to fend off any serious attack the Carnivons would mount. And that, my friends, is the galactic news. Oh, yes. So, what did you think of our little promotional message there? I thought that was quite a turn of tempo, something to sort of bring us down and calm, if you know what I mean. All right, let's take a moment and say hello. Hello. Oh, ladies and gentlemen, not one. Well, that's one phenomenal photon of cosmic power that has been sent my way. Thank you very much for whoever that mysterious offender may be. It was, Madmen. That's right. The best of the Galactic's promotional team are working hard to give you the best ad reads this show can provide. All right, let me just pull up very quickly as I am cycling through all the things. Here we go. That's what I'm looking for. Come on. There we go. All right. We're live, or we're following along live. Here we go. So where we got Bill Smitty's in the house. Devin Dean. Hey, Smitty. Lost Muskrat is here. Julian. Welcome back, Julian. I know you've been missing us the past couple of episodes. Welcome back. Eugene. Will Paravians survive? Will the Paravians survive? Let me pop this out. It's a little hard to read at this range because, I'm getting old. It's crazy. It's crazy that the eyes just start to go like that. Okay. Eugene. Will Paravians survive? Will the Carnivon press their attack through the wormhole? Klingons with a B4B, what will they do with it? Tune in for the latest updates and thumbs up. That's right. If you haven't tickled the YouTube algorithm in just the right way, then feel free to take this moment and hit that thumbs up. That's right. You could also be like Faru, who has joined us today at 390 subscribers. Granted, small number in the big picture, big number when it comes to this show. We are 10 away from the magic 400. Please do your part. Tell 2 friends. Subscribe. Hit the thumbs up. Tickle the ivories over at YouTube in just the right way. And help us get to the 400 number on our way to 500. Thank you very much. All right. With my Elvis impersonation there. What do we got here? Bill saying, hello, Julian, Eugene. I smell baked chicken, Julian says. Oh, the Kentucky Fried jokes are just beginning, my friend. Finger licking good is the way we like our Paravians. That's right, deep fried and ready to eat. Paul is laughing his tail off, I'm assuming from my ad read, unless it's just the way I look every day. Either way, you let me know which part did you appreciate the most. And notice that it wasn't tentacle treatment, it was tentacle with the 2 L's there. That was very nice. Daniel, pew pew, is in the house. And Julian says, Daniel, I see your pews and raise you a daka. Da, da, dun, 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 dun. I see some exciting back and forth coming our way in the future. Okay, let me restore the chat. We are at magic number 13 for those concurrently viewing at this time. Thank you for that magical baker's dozen number. Let's continue with, it would seem that I need to pull up the latest and greatest of our map news. That's right. As you know, the Vassal is the platform which we use to develop the map here on the show. And it takes a little while to work because Vassal's not the most, shall we say, high-tech alternative on the market, but it does the job and it does it well for us. Let's jump into the map right now and we can talk about what's going on in the galaxy. All right, everybody, welcome to the map. As you can see, we're in the top left corner near Klingon space. I'm just pulling up fleet cap numbers right now. Oh, I just realized as I'm pulling up fleet cap, I have not covered the economy. Let me go over fleet cap right now, and then I will scoot us back over to a table where we will review the economic status of our various players. But before I do that, let's just take a quick look at fleet cap since we're right here right now. As you can see, the top of the ticket, Borak, just because it's alphabetical, has 104 total ships in the galaxy. We have 104 floating out in the deep space with 199 total attack, 420 for the defense. Notice the difference between that 420, great number, and 444, which is the fleet cap. There is quite the number of cripples in the mix. Now, 104 is a great number, but the Carnivon put that to shame, nearly doubling it with 186. Whoa! They have an attack factor, combined attack factor of 410. Just think about that. The total defense factor of the Borak Navy is 420. The total attack factor of the Carnivon Navy is 410. Oh my God. This is ridiculous as far as numbers go. Unbelievable. 743 their defense factor with a fleet cap of 747. So 1 or 2 cripples in the mix. The Federation are at 76 total ships. They are in the quiet area of space. That's right. They live in a good neighborhood, gated community. 76 total ships in their fleet, 165 attack, 300 defense with a fleet cap of 303. Our Hydran friends down in the bottom right corner of the map are at a magic 77, the year of punk, the height of disco, and the year Star Wars came out. 172 is their total attack factor, 331 defense. Boom! Ladies and gentlemen, a phenomenal photon has been fired. I'm going to take a quick sip of my coffee. I know my teeth are not in right now, which is why I'm able to sip the elixir of life that we know as coffee. It's so good. Okay, it was fired from the Tholian Cran Consortium. Well, thank you very much, my rock-headed friends, my thick-headed friends, my crystalline forms. Let's take a quick sip and ASMR this thing. So good. All right. Where were we? We talked about our hydrants at 77. Let's go to the ISC. That's right. They are exerting peace and tranquility in the corners of Borak space. They have 73 total ships in their fleet. 180 total attack, 322 on the defense with 326 as their fleet cap. The Klingons. That's right, the purveyors of battleships all around the galaxy. You too can order yours. Just get on the waiting list with a quick deposit of 100 in credits. You can also be part of this phenomenal 112 ship fleet. That's right here. 112 ships with 335 total attack, 523 defense with a fleet cap of 549. Our friends the Kzinti, that's the white and black, the kitty cats down under, they are at 66. So close to 69. 66 total ships with 152 attack, 271 defense, fleet cap 273. The Lyrans, the other cats in the house, that's right, the mountain lions are on the top next to the Borak, incurring, no, that's not, creating incursions. Either way, perusing, can't even come up with any good words today. Either way, the Lyrans have 102 ships in their fleet, 239 attack, 444 defense, 449 total fleet cap. Now, the Kentucky Fried Chickens of the world, the Paravians, have 52 total ships, which is exactly half the number of total ships in the Borak fleet, with 125 total attack, 236 defense, with a fleet cap of 250. Very interesting, considering they have better than half the attack factors, with only half the number of ships. It's it's pretty impressive. I like that. We've got the Tholians, which are our last major faction on this list, with a total of 88 ships, 149 attack, 390 defense, matching their fleet cap. No cripples in their fleet. Hoorah! There we go. But as I said, I do not want to delay you from the most current news. Let's slide on over to the chart. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. I forgot to bring you this bar graph, line graph, the graft. Here it is. Here we go. The Tholians, as you can see, are at the bottom of our economic ladder at 64.5, even though they're at the top. Very nice. The Lyrans, just below them, so to speak, at 66.5 total income. The ISC climbing above the 70 mark with 70.5. The Borak just a pinch ahead of them at 71.5. The Paravians, again, just 2 steps ahead of them both at 73 total economy. The Hydrans at a sweet 75. The Kzinti at a solid 8-0. Very nice in the top 4. Rounding out the top 3 is the Federation at just under 90 at 89.5. The Carnies and the Klingons popping 100 each. The Carnies at 106. Whew, that's a lot. And the Klingons at a phenomenal, mind-bending 122.5. Wow. So look to the side here at the graph. Notice a couple of interesting things. So we've seen a couple of hockey stick type movements from the Klingons. That's the black line at the very top. You can see there's more than a couple of moments when they just sort of like ka-chunk catapult up. And the graph here is important to note as far as the number of turns. So the past, let's say, 7 turns have been doing it 1 turn at a time. So the changes would be less dramatic on the bar graph, whereas before that it was maybe every 5 turns or so. It was 5 turns, then 3 turns, and now every 1 turn. So you can notice that the interval has changed. But look how much the increase is even between 63 and now 67. Look at the degree to which those Klingons are just climbing. And look at the Carnies. They flatlined for a little bit, but then in 66 and 67, they've really sort of increased, as well as the Federation. The Federation between 66 and 67 have had a noticeable improvement. Now, interesting to note, turn 64, it would seem, was the year that everything changed for the Paravians. You can see our orange line, the Kentucky Fried Chicken colors right there, orange. They were at turn 64. They were sitting pretty at, I'm assuming that's 80 EP. And then the gradual decline as things happened, as the Borak have come in. Now, I haven't done the exact calculation, but based on this income graph, you can definitely note that the Borak seemed to have penetrated the wormhole around turn 65. If they came through in 64, they started to make themselves felt in turn 65. It's only been 3 turns, that means, that the Borak have been sort of getting into Paravian space. So interesting to note. And look at the degree to which that income has just dropped off. Now, interestingly, the Borak in hot pink, great color, because, only real men can wear pink, they've increased as well, but keeping themselves just below the Paravian number, initiative. It's an important thing. So that's very interesting. So the top 3, the Federation, the Carnies, and the Klingons, quite the separation, even amongst those top 3 between them. And then you've got the cluster of the Kzinti. The Kzinti arguably in an echelon all their own, but then certainly the Hydrons and everybody else clustered in underneath. It's quite a tight little package for sure. So here's the question as I slide back to our chat. Here we go. All right, so here's the question for you as we are about to roll into the map and talk about all things battleships and beyond. What do you think about the progression of the economies in this game? What do you think about what currently the Klingons are doing, which is this conquering by exploration? They are by far the biggest footprint in the game as far as their territory. We'll see here in a moment the degree to which they are really pushing their exploration, as well as the success of their strategy. Their fleet is not by any means the biggest, but it's by no means the smallest. They are the second largest military in the game, almost half the size of the Carnivon. They are certainly the biggest economy in the game, and yet they are, as we will see here in a moment, they are strangely vulnerable along their Carnivon border. How and what will happen there, who knows? But it'll be very interesting to see, as we've theorized, if they are colluding, cooperating, or otherwise working together. The progression down the map from the north to the south will be very interesting as things progress. But they're not the only faction that are doing well economically or militarily. The Carnivon arguably are the big winners in this game so far, with by leaps and bounds, the biggest military in the game, and economically number 2. And not by, granted, 122 to 106 is quite the delta, but considering that the Carnivons are out of war status right now, they are getting all the money that they can possibly make. So it's very, very interesting. But what will happen between the Carnivons and the other factions around them? Will they continue to be cooperative and collude with their neighbors? Will there be tensions that arise and, wars or conflicts started? Again, only time will tell, but it'll be very interesting to see, considering the size and strength of the Carnivon Navy, where they decide to direct that. Because, not unlike some geopolitical stuff, there is a window with which you can use these things, a demographic timeline, beginning, middle, and end. And I would argue that we are nearing the end of the primacy of Y-Tech, because we've already seen the Klingons introduce M-Tech. Other factions, I imagine, can't be close or must be close behind. And so once M ships start rolling out, to what degree will those Y ships be valuable for the Carnivon? Not to mention fleet cap concerns around having too many ships and, of course, the money to be able to support them. It'll be very interesting to see how this all rolls out. Once the Carnivon go to peace, what will the fleet cap calculation look like? All right. And of course, we round out the top three with the Federation in the third spot. And they are noticeably lower than the Klingons or the Carnivon. But it'll be interesting to see their fleet is small, Federation that is, but their economy is big. Boom! Lost Muskrat has fired a photon of goodness our way. Once again, I will wet my whistle with the elixir of life. Oh, yes. Okay. So, yes. The Federation rounding out the top three. They don't have the military, but they certainly have the economy to be a contender, so to speak. So we'll have to see how this all pans out as we roll forward. Let's slide back into the map, and we will talk about our Klingon friends. Welcome to the map. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. We're in the top left corner. You might say the galactic northwest, and we can see our good friends, the Klingons. So this is a bit of a bigger picture. I'll zoom in one so we can get a better glance here. And here we are. Okay. So top left corner, we've got a derelict, size class 2. So that's size class 2. The smaller the number, the bigger the ship. Size class 2 vessel is big. Possibly something that can be converted into something in the future, or maybe just reverse engineered to be able to figure out what is going on with these advanced technologies that are dancing around the galaxy. So we have that there. Now, there was talk about, let's go to the Klingon homeworld. Maybe it's in the Klingon capital. Oh, no. So there was talk about this battleship. I hear rumors. Where is it? I want to see it. I want to see the battleship. Okay, I got F4s in home fleet. That's not exciting. Tholian Border Squadron. Let's take a look at Tholian Border Squadron. I'll be very excited if the battleship is there. Damn. All right, so I just want to take a minute. Let that sink in. What do we got here? Let's take a look at the menu, ladies and gentlemen. Within 3 hexes of the Klingon homeworld, we have the wormhole. The wormhole has a YDK sitting on it, along with an R&D team, probably doing a lot more tech on wormhole travel. On this hex, we have the following ships. We have a total of 8 plus 8 F4s. That is a total of 16 F4 destroyers. Not to be outdone, they also have a Y-era cruiser, which is a D4. But again, we're not gonna sit on our laurels. We have 2 E4Ms, which are the sort of the inverse of the F4. They are superpowered or overpowered frigates with a 4 attack, 3 defense. Excuse me. They're also really cheap to build. The D6M, which is the early M era cruiser for the Klingons, moving 6, 7 attack, 7 defense, and then not to be held back, but with the 10 command factors coming in hot and heavy, is the B4B. Now, the important thing about the B4B to understand is the B4B has Y-era engines, meaning it only moves 4 hexes. That is a small constraint, considering the B4B, while moving 4, has the firepower of an M-era ship with 12 attack and 14 defense. That is the equivalent offensive firepower of 3 heavy cruisers of the Y era. That's pretty nutty. Pretty nutty. So what is a faction like the Klingons going to do with a battleship, 2 M-class cruisers, 2 E4Ms? So basically the M-era ships, the 2 cruisers and the 2 E4Ms, can move 6 hexes. The rest of them have to move 4. Then you got a D4 cruiser and a total of 16 destroyers. 16 destroyers, 15 with the cruiser, another 4 brings us up to 19, and the battleship rounds us out to a 20. 20 ships sitting on the wormhole. What do you think they're going to do with that? I'll let you ponder that idea. With 20 ships sitting on that wormhole, what are the Klingons going to do? Yeah. Okay, let's scroll down. What else we got here? Now, the TGB, interesting. TGB is a tug, early M era tug, 4 attack, 8 defense. It can move 6, important to remember. It is a phenomenal tug. When it's equipped with battle pods, it can get 12 attack. I think it's 12 attack because they carry 2 pods. I think it can get a total of 12 attack and... is it 12 attack? No, sorry. It has 8 attack and 12 defense. That's what it is because the battle pods add 2. There is a TGA that comes out eventually and in later M, and it's a straight 8. And that ship as a battle tug is as effective as a battleship. It's pretty nuts. Okay, so we got a M era tug floating around with some troop pods, it would seem. Interesting that oh no, I guess the TGB is not carrying the Y-era pods because the Y-era pods can only be carried by Y-era tugs, of which there are also 2 in that hex, so that's good to note. We got a D6M sitting here. I see the D6Ms are populating all over Klingon space. You've got them down the side here, 1, 2, 3. Then you've got another 3, Harbinger, Awakening, and no more other named D6Ms, but you've got 6 D6Ms just on the west coast of Klingon space here. Looks like we've got some bases under construction. I've got a YBS under construction here, another one about to complete here. This one looks like it'll complete shortly. Yeah, there's a lot of construction going on to facilitate the exploration. And look at all this. So M-era cruisers, Y-era cruisers, survey ships, more expeditionary fleets. We're just pushing. And look, they have discovered another faction, another minor faction. This is a Riemann independent planet with 4 planetary ground bases, a YDK, it's a developing planet, and Columbia fleet. If we look up the minor factions, oh my God, look at all this. Columbia fleet up here in the top right has Dreadnought, command cruiser, 3 destroyers, 6 frigates, and a convoy. Note, they're all Y ships. These are all Y ships here relative to the Klingons' M-Tech. Very interesting to note. Okay, so the Klingons are hitting hard. Their fleet composition is transforming to arguably, it may not be the biggest when it comes to numbers, but I would argue the most capable as far as capabilities, military in the game. They have quite a few M-era cruisers floating around. They obviously are producing M-era frigates, and they have a Klingon battleship in the mix. Wow. So remember, this Juliet wormhole comes out down here, right where 4th Fleet is. It's going to be really important to talk about that later in this episode when we discuss what this means for the Tholians. That's more than a little bit of a headache. Again, being so close to the homeworld here, like take away the ships and the bases, look how close that is. They can 1, 2, 3, 4 transiting through the wormhole, 1 movement to be able to transit through the wormhole. They can still move 2 hexes on the other side if they're an M ship. That's crazy. And whatever ships the Klingons build on whatever turn it is, they can move through the wormhole that same turn. They can build 1, 2, 3, boom, 4 going through the wormhole. So they could build a whole nother suite of ships to add to that 20 and then go through that wormhole. That is intimidating. That is, based on the current level of Klingon technology, I would argue that is even potentially an existential threat. Whew. All right. Let's take a deep breath. Relax. Take a moment. 60% of our goal nearly complete. We have 2 more coffees to get to be able to get where we need to go. I'm going to take a quick sip before I dive into the green and yellow of the Carnivon. All right. Here we go. The Carnivon are interesting friends on the up north. Note, on the west side of their map, they have virtually nothing. No ships. Wolfpack 4 is sitting here, being ever present. But if we look at Wolfpack 4, 1, 2, 3, 4 is a destroyer and what? 4? No. 6. A destroyer and 6 frigates. Granted, that's not nothing, but it's certainly not enough to stop an assault versus Blue Fleet and First War Squadron. Let's just take a look at Klingon Blue Fleet. I have a feeling it's nothing to worry about. Yeah, we got 5 destroyers and what was that? First Imperial War? Yeah. First Imperial War Squadron. Bunch of crippled ships. Excuse me, I've got burpee. Excuse me. Yes, so we've got 3 crippled ships there along with 5 non-crippled ships. I don't see that as being any kind of threat relative to Wolfpack 4 here. However, I mean, with the Klingons and their M ships, they could move quickly if they so wanted to, but I digress. I'm not going to say anything that's going to change anybody's minds on the Klingon or Carnivon high command side, so what am I going to do? Let's look over on the east side. East side, we've got some survey ships, as in a survey cruiser, small exploration freighter, large exploration freighter. They look like, to me, like they're just cleaning up the last of unexplored space. Nothing too exciting. You see an ISC commercial convoy working its way probably over to this YDK to start some trade. We've got more exploration and survey ships happening in this bottom corner here. And then what do we have here? Holy Dinah. Okay, we'll start from the top and work our way down. All right, so on this Romulan planet, we have a frigate and a diplomat trying to make things copacetic between them and the Romulans. It looks like this planet, which used to be Romulan, has been since converted, which would probably contribute to the recent uptick in the Carnivon economy. The minor planet is now fully operational. We have on this YDK, Wolfpack 6, along with, looks like 4 frigates, 2 destroyers, a cruiser, drone bombardment cruiser, and a commando ship. But Wolfpack 6, let's take a look at Carnivon Wolfpack 6. Looks like 2 crippled destroyers. Okay, so nothing too much there. We've got a frigate Sapphire Fleet sitting on this YDK. So Carnivon Sapphire Fleet. Sapphire Fleet is 2 frigates, a drone bombardment cruiser, and a cruiser. Nothing too much to worry about there. Now we're getting down to the meat and potatoes. So Ruby Fleet, we'll put Sapphire up here just so we know where it is. We've got Ruby Fleet right here. Ruby. All right. Yes. Look at that. 13 frigates, 3 destroyers, rounding us out to 16. Then 2 drone bombardment destroyers, a cruiser, drone bombardment, cruiser, heavy cruiser, and a command cruiser. So what was that? That was 13, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. 21 ships there. You know, just sliding through. Emerald Fleet, Carnivon Emerald Fleet. Sorry, I just need to bring up Sapphire Fleet again just to talk about. Oh my God. Okay, so there's Sapphire, right? That's up here. Sorry, let's bring up Ruby. My mistake. Ruby Fleet, which is the one over here. Emerald Fleet, which is right here. Yeah, how many ships is that? 19 frigates, 9 destroyers. 28 ships right there. 29 with the drone bombardment destroyer and a drone bombardment cruiser. So this rounds us out to 20. Plus 4 light cruisers, 24. Plus 7 cruisers, heavy cruisers. So what? 31. 3 command cruisers, 34. And a dreadnought for 35. 35 ships. No big deal. Just sitting there. 35 ships. Home Fleet. Oh my God. Oh, sorry. Let me leave that up there just so that we can see it. That was Emerald Fleet, right? Yeah. Okay. So that's Emerald. Then we're going to look at Home Fleet. Carnivon Home Fleet. Dear God, man. So Home Fleet, Dreadnought, 3 cruisers, 3 drone bombardment cruisers, 2 commando ships, and 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 21, 22 ships right there. And last but not least, Diamante, Diamond Fleet. Oh my God. And Diamond Fleet, again, I just want to, it's right there, so I'll just put it up here. 2 command cruisers, 3 heavy cruisers, 3 drone bombardment destroyers and destroyer, and then a total of 11 frigates. So 11, 12, 15, 18, 19, 20. So multiple fleets in a close proximity with double-digit fleet count, 20, 30, 20, 20, like just unbelievable numbers. So when we want to talk about the gross number of military power that the Carnivon have, it's all in here. And who is on the receiving end of that military punch? Well, it looks like the Borak are about to get a very rude awakening. Let's just take away the ships real quick. So we have a string of YDKs being built into this area. You can see this one is about to complete. So that's a lot of repair capacity to be able to deal with a fight. And do we think that they're going to be able to roll in here and just clean house with that number of ships? I think the answer is yes. It'll be very interesting to see how this evolves. Wow. Okay, bring the ships back. That's crazy. Let's take a second and talk about our good friends, the ISC, before we go back to the chat. We'll take the top 3, go back to the chat it up a little bit, talk about the Lyrans, the Kzinti, and the Federation. Have a little another chat. Talk about the bottom 3, and then we'll finally close it up with the Borak and the Paravians, and we'll go from there. So here we have the ISC. Now, quick perusing around their empire. You can see along the west coast, we've got tugs, frigates, no significant military of any type. This is all a combination of exploration and like base infrastructure that's here, but no real military presence. If we go over to the home world, you can see we've got Integrity Fleet. I'm assuming it's Integrity Fleet. It's the named echelons. Integrity Fleet, which is 3 frigates sitting here on this, along with a YDN. On their wormhole that leads to Federation space, they have a frigate, 3 frigates, a light cruiser, and a destroyer, along with some exploration going on up here. On this other wormhole that at the moment doesn't really go anywhere, it goes to the other side of the galaxy, but there's no one on the other side, really. We've got Destiny Fleet, which you can see here as a destroyer, a frigate, and an R&D team doing, I'm sure, wormhole research. And then 4 frigates and a command cruiser. So nothing too crazy one way or the other, but enough to just kind of guard the wormhole. No big deal. Exploration fleets all the rest of the way around, and then the concentration of their ships in here. Now remember, when we looked at fleet cap, which is an interesting sort of calculation here, the ISC only have 73 ships, which is, in the grand scheme of things, sort of, I guess, an average number. I'll bring it up again. So when we looked at fleet cap, for example, we saw that the Hydrons have 77 ships. The ISC have 73 ships. The Kzinti have 66 ships. The Paravians have 52. The Tholians have 88. So generally speaking, the average is in that range. The only people who have over 100 ships, really, are the Lyrans at 102, the Borak at 104, the Klingons at 112, and the Carnies at 186. So there's only 4 factions with triple-digit number of ships. And so generally speaking, that's, again, sort of par for the course, the number of ships that they have. So, but where are they all? They're all in this pocket of Borak space. You've got a tug on its way here with some EP embarked. You've got light cruiser, 2 frigates, a destroyer, command cruiser, and a destroyer just sitting here on this hex. A cruiser with 7th and home fleet, so those are different. Let's pull those up. 7th fleet is a Vulcan scout and a frigate, as well as home fleet. Home fleet, here we are, with a dreadnought, light cruiser, and a frigate. That's all that's there. We have another tug with enforcement and justice, which is a command cruiser, a destroyer, and another cruiser. So 2 cruisers and a destroyer guarding a tug. And then we have this fleet with 2 cruisers, 1 cruiser, a light cruiser, destroyer, and a frigate. So, again, Interesting. Let's just take a quick look here. So we've got this being available in 99 spring, and they're starting to take resources. Interesting. Okay, so yeah, this is the incursion into Borak space by the ISC, and yeah, it's gonna get interesting. That is for sure. As we can see, we have the Carnivon coming in heavy, if not hard just yet. The ISC coming in as heavy as they can get with the majority of their ships in this area. And I only put that comparison because the Carnivon have twice the number of the largest fleet of the other largest faction. Like, I mean, the Klingons have 112 ships and the Carnies have 80 something. So again, just looking at the total attack factor of the Carnivons, 186 ships with 410 attack. The ISC, by comparison, the attack factors of the Carnivon exceed the defense factors of the ISC ships. Like, it's just, the Carnivon are in a league of their own. That's all I'm saying. They're in just total league of their own. And then the ISC coming in, and then the Lyrans, which are, again, one of those other factions with over 100 ships. And you can see Silver Moon. Where's Lyran? Lyran. Oh, dear. Finding these fleets is always a challenge. Silver Moon. Okay. So Silver Moon is a light cruiser and a frigate. No big deal. Then you got these two frigates here. And there is a base being constructed right here in 99 fall that will complete. So you've got a tug with some EP here. Looks like, are there more than one? No, two tugs, and then there's another tug with EP. And then, of course, you've got Home Fleet, which for the Lyrans, I know I said I was going to come back to Lyrans later. Let's just take a quick look. That's not a small fleet. Heavy Dreadnought. Oh, my God. Okay, hold on. What's Compots? This is Lyran Home Fleet. Holy crow. That's just an unbelievable number. So, I'm trying to expand this a little bit more so I can see what's going on here. Okay. So, Lyran Home Fleet. L Home. Lyran Home Fleet. Lyran Home Fleet has a total of 45 ships in it. The fleet itself has an attack factor of 118 and a defense factor of 195. That's all the ships combined. So, again, just thinking about composition here, the Lyrans total have 102 ships. So approximately half their fleet's in that one fleet. They have 118 total attack factor, which means that over half of their total attack factors are in that fleet and close to half their defense factor. So essentially half of their military is in that one specific fleet with 15 light cruisers, 16 frigates, 7 destroyers, and a total of 6 command and heavy cruisers along with a heavy dreadnought. Wow. Okay. That's pretty crazy. Let's slide back. I'm a little overwhelmed. Let me slide back to the chat and commiserate with you. Here we go. I feel like after looking at all those fleets arrayed against the Borak, I should be drinking something a little harder than coffee. You tell me. All right, sliding back into the chat here real quick. I see a comment from Julian I just want to chat about. I want to read. All right, let's see here. Julian, Klingons have demonstrated the efficacy of prioritizing exploration and growth. It's been facilitated by their cooperation with the Carnivons. Without a doubt, they have certainly, the argument that's always made in games like this, 4X games, is it better to attack and devastate and destroy your opponents, or is it better to cooperate, collaborate, and sort of move forward? And I would say that, generally speaking, in 4X military games like this, that there is an advantage to taking out your opponent like an immediate neighbor early, which arguably is happening right now between like the Borak or the victim of that right now. But there is a definite advantage to taking out an opponent early because it gives you the breadth, the room to grow. Now, if you already have room to grow and a military fight like the Klingons, they were really in a corner, right? The top left of the map, and they didn't have anyone that was right up against them. So, and they had lots of room to expand. So keeping their powder dry and focusing on their technological advancement, they were able to just push the exploration as much as possible without being tested militarily. And so that's been a huge boom for them. As well as the Carnivons, they've taken a slightly different approach. They've also worked on exploration, sort of, but at the same time with a compromise of building all these cruisers and ships to be able to facilitate their military. I think that's been a very successful strategy for the Carnivon. They are in a slightly different scenario than the Klingons, seeing as they have basically neighbors on all fronts. And their military prowess has allowed them the ability to push in the direction that they've gone when it comes to the number of ships that they have, and of course how they're throwing that weight around. I would say that I've never quite seen a game like this where you have seemingly Carnivons, Klingons, Lyrans, and the IC all working together. That's 4 factions cooperating, 3 of them ganging up on one, to be able to, like, the game's only got 10 players, and you've got almost half of them working together. It's pretty dicey. Okay, Lost Muskrat says, I was looking at the stats today and noting who has a ship count greater than their EP. It's interesting, but isn't telling. So ship counts greater than their EP. Interesting note. So let's just take a quick fleet cap compared to EP comparison here. So the Borak have currently 71.5 EP. They have 104 total ships. Okay. Bill Smith says, good try, Tony. The Carnivon have 106 EP and 186 ships. The Federation have 89.5 EP with 76 ships. So that's the first of the factions with below ship numbers relative to income. The Hydrans have 77 ships, but 75 income, so just a pinch above. The ISC have 73 ships and a 70.5 income. The Klingons have 112 ships, 122.5 income. Interesting. The Kzinti have 80 income, 66 ships. The Lyrans, 102 ships versus 66.5 income. The Paravians, 52 ships versus their 73 income. And the Tholians, 88 ships versus 64.5. So, interesting dynamic. Most of the factions that have more ships than their income are at war. Most of them. Not all of them, but most of them. So, interesting to note. And I'll be curious to see, because we talk about war turns in this game and the negative impact that it can have. So, question for you as the audience. Knowing that once you get past 20 turns of war exhaustion, that has a negative economic and attitude impact on your planets. 0 to 20 is the first milestone, then 20 to 30. Once you get to 30, it increases that negative impact, and then it scales from there every 10. So 20 turns, then your income goes from 100% to 75% for war turns. Then at 30, it goes down to 50, and then it goes down to 40 at 40, and further down from there. The question will be, with all the factions that are currently at war, here's an interesting idea. So the Carnivon, the ISC, and the Lyrans are all at war with the Borak, obviously. The Borak are at war with the Paravians as well. Once this scenario has concluded. How many war turns will the Carnies, the Lyrans, and the ISC have? If the Borak are successful in their relocation, then they'll be out of that area of space. And those other three factions will have, 10 plus war turns or more that they'll have to work down. If that's the case, how much of an opportunity is that for their neighbors? Klingons obviously is the first one because they're big and they're right next door. But then also looking at the Kzinti to the south of the Lyrans, or the Federation to the south of where Borak space used to be, depending on who moves their way down in what way, what is that going to look like, and how is that going to happen? Okay. Oh, look at this. Eugene. Tony said 3 against 1. Most of the 3 may be thinking that this is the Borak intransigence at negotiating, that their primary thing that brings them together. What? Okay, let's try that again. Tony said 3 against 1. Most of the 3 may be thinking that it is the Borak intransigence at negotiating that is the primary thing that brings them together. Borak equals bully, now with a bloody nose. Interesting. So you think the Borak are the bully. That is an interesting interpretation. I would challenge that observation, as the Borak were the ones that were looking for trade, mutual defense agreements, and other kinds of negotiated settlements with everybody. Don't disagree that the Lyrans and the Borak had challenging negotiations because, shall we say, there was a misalignment about what was reasonable and what wasn't. And so that led to the conflict, at the very least, that led to the conflict with the Lyrans. The observation that the Borak, out of all the factions in this game, were the bullies is an interesting observation. Typically, bullies are categorized by being bigger, stronger, or in some way, shape, or form having an advantage from a threat perspective. And they use that intimidation faction or factor in trying to get what they want. I would argue that the Borak at no point in this game have ever been, militarily anyway, from a threat perspective, a real threat to anybody, because the Borak have been sort of coming from behind the entire time, militarily, for example. Like the current Y fleet composition of the Borak fleet, those frigates and destroyers suck hard. The cruisers, that's great. I mean, I got good cruisers, but the rest of the ships in the fleet composition suck. So trying to develop a combat-capable fleet that is intimidating or threatening is challenging for the Borak versus, let's say, just by comparison, the ISC. The ISC have some of the best ships in the game, especially in the Y era. The Carnivon, just based on their size, like they had so many more ships relative to the Borak, and their ships, generally speaking, are comparable or better in the sense that their frigates are more powerful, their cruisers are comparable, better defense factors, slightly less defense factors, but they have heel nippers. Like there's lots of like back and forth there. And the Lyrans at the time that we initially encountered each other or like began our negotiation, I would say that our militaries were similar. I think at the time there might have been a slight advantage on the Lyran side, although in the locale of where we were initially bumping into each other near the Romulan homeworld, there was like the Borak had more ships in that local area for a period of time just because of the way everything was working out. So, but in the big picture, like I say, at no point, I would argue, have the Borak ever been the bully in this game. But it's interesting that others might say that. One might say they would be projecting. All right, I see notes. Let's see. Bill Smitty saying, good try again, Tony. Again, projection. Dell, the Hydrons will come out of nowhere and take over the universe. I hail my future overlords. Well, to be fair, they did pay for that, tentacle cream promotion. So goodness knows that they are certainly working their corporate magic to be able to make some profit. Julian says, what excuse would the ISC and Carnivon use to justify it? The Borak were bullies. Really gets laughable. Just admit that you're opportunistically aggressive. And Julian says, Dell, only if they use Mel's. Totally. So I agree with, obviously, I'm the Borak, so I agree with Julian's observation. But at the same time, in a 4X game, there's nothing wrong with doing what they're doing. They are working together to take down the Borak. Arguably, maybe not out of the four factions in this pocket, which would be the Carnivon, Lyran, Borak, and ISC. The Borak are potentially the best target for those four factions. Like, let's say, for example, the only other way you could combine 3-on-1 would be Borak, Lyran, and ISC versus Carnivon. But why would you do that? The Carnivon are the biggest military in the game, especially around the time that this might have been determined. So if they were going to be 3-on-1, the Carnivon are the harder target, so don't do that. The Borak are the only other option, because if it was the ISC as the target, it would be Borak and Carnivon versus ISC. There's no one else can really get into that other than maybe the Federation, but that's hopeful. Versus the Lyrans, by example, it would only be the Borak and the Carnivon versus the Lyrans, unless the Klingons got involved, which they certainly are not. So yeah, if it was 3-on-1, which is the desired goal, out of the two options, Carnivon or Borak, the Borak's the easier target, so why not take out the Borak? And I said this before with in a previous conversation. I'm not sure what it is, whether it's because I'm the face of this channeling game that we play, but I feel like there's a certain premium or bounty on me, in the sense of all of you out there watching this show, and those of you who are playing, may perceive me as being a prize to be had when taking me out. I am the first to say I've lost every game I've played in this. I've never won a game. In the last game, granted, I take a certain level of pride that it took 3 factions to take me out. The Gorn, the Tholians, and the Romulans. And they did. They took me out. But again, I lost that game. So here again, instead of waiting late game to have 3-on-1, we've had 3-on-1 early in the game. Great. And arguably, I was going to be eliminated. There was no way, like even now, when you look at the numbers with the fleet counts getting bigger, at no point, and we've done the analysis on economies and fleet counts and everything, at no point was there ever a hope that the Borak could fend off all 3, because of the sheer size of fleets. Like the Carnivon fleets alone, if it was just 1-on-1, it's a 2-to-1 fight. 2-to-1 offensive firepower, fleet count. Like there's no way the Borak could hold the Carnivon back. Then add into that the ISC and the Lyrans. And that's just like, there's no way to win. So 3-on-1, this early stage of the game, I was going to get eliminated. It was only through out-of-the-box creative thinking that I, as the player, Borak, came up with a potential option. It hasn't even been like fully mapped out or fully done at this point. But I came up with an option of potentially surviving, and that was the Battlestar Galactica invasion of Paravian space, to try and get a lifeboat to be able to survive post invasion from the Carnies ISC and so on. So all that to say, let's take a look at the chat. I see a couple things have come in. So Julian says, yeah, not judging. It's the purpose of the game. But just admit the real motive, i.e. be honest with yourself, you know? You don't want to, like, deal with that repressed frustration for too long. It's toxic. You got to get it out. Lost Muskrat says, for the Carnivon, it was real politique with a large dose of opportunism. Yeah, without a doubt. I'm going to take a quick sip out of my New World's beverage glass here. Oh, yes. The elixir of life. Okay. Well, this is a war game. So, Dale says. Yes, absolutely. Okay. Let's take a break from my soapboxing and let's get into the meat and potatoes of what's going on with the Lyrans, the Kzinti, and the Federation. And then we will slide back into commentary. Here we go. Okay, so here we are with the Lyrans. Now, we talked about the Lyrans and the concentration of ships on this pocket here over by the Romulans. So just as a recap, they're building a base here. One of the interesting challenges that was going on here is because of the conflict that started with the Romulans are cutting off supply to ships here. So Lyrans have 4 supply, and they're trying to build a base here. But when they move stuff into this location, there were all these ships in the way, all these Romulans that were cutting off supply. So they needed, the Lyrans that is, needed to put ships in here to facilitate supply coming through. So they did. And so here we are. So there's a clear supply line, 1, 2, 3, 4 to here, and that facilitates that supply route, which is great. Other than that, if we look over on the west side of Lyran space, you can see the close proximity to Klingon exploration. Noting, interesting to note, the border neutral zone is remaining unexplored. Now, I don't know if that'll stay that way, but the unexplored border is very advantageous because it allows for slowing down any potential attacks. Like if someone wants to cross a neutral zone, then it happens really quick. And I've been on the receiving end of some of those kinds of attacks. However, when there is a fog of war hex in between you, it slows you down. You can't just run through a fog of war hex, and you can't draw supply through fog of war, understandably. So that creates a bit of a challenge when trying to invade an opponent. So keeping that fogged is an interesting strategic choice. But we have a whole bunch of survey ships doing their business here. I note there is a base about to be completed, another base being constructed here, all, I imagine, as part of the supporting exploration in this area. We have enemy blood and Apex fleet. Let's take a look at these guys. Lyran. Oh dear, where do I find these boys? So enemy blood fleet, and what was the other one? Apex. Lyran Apex. I must say the way they we need to reorganize how those fleet boxes are organized because it's hard to find them. Okay, so enemy blood and Apex. We have 2 cruisers, 1 command, 1 not, 3 light cruisers, 2 destroyers, and a total of 7 uncrippled and 3 crippled frigates in this area. So interesting. I wonder if those are just kind of like, we'll call them police ships for all intents and purposes sitting there. Ooh, we have an amoeba and foremost fleet. So normally I would expect foremost fleet, for example, to be engaged in combat with the amoeba, but obviously the amoeba is still there, so there's something other than combat occurring there. Note 2 command cruisers, a light cruiser destroyer, and 7 frigates, as well as a prime team on that amoeba hex. So interesting to sort of see what's going to happen there. On the southern part, we have, as I take away ships, so we've got the bases, exploration, basically survey ship, small exploration freighter, We have a tug and an exploration ship. I have a feeling they're going to build a base in this area and go from there. The Federation engaging in some trade back and forth here. You can see there's going to be a trade route established here momentarily. And that'll be very, very interesting once that's all said and done. And so the Lyrans are, as you can see and tell, they are heavily investing with approximately half or over half their fleet in advancing into Borak space. And there's nothing the Borak can do about it because they don't have ships to stop them. Because again, fight the battle you can win, not the one you're definitely going to lose. Okay, let's talk about the Kzinti, the other cat folks in space. These are the space tigers, you might say, versus the space mountain lions, which are the Lyrans. So takeaway ships real quick. We have YDK, 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 and I imagine this will get changed up to a YDK. We have a newly discovered Riemann planet, and there's another Vudar planet here. So there's lots of NPC planets in the area. Notice the Vudar are friendly, which is great, and the Kzinti have done a good job of converting their non-player or minor factions. So it'll be very interesting to see how this evolves over the coming turns. More exploration happening here. Tug, I imagine, will be building a base here shortly. And yeah, lots of base construction and infrastructure investment along this northern border. I wonder why. As we scroll down here, Goliath fleet, which was, I believe, Kzinti. There we are. Goliath fleet, I believe, was the fleet that was had all the diplomats in it. Oh no, it's got theater transport, so they were transporting EP there, I imagine, helping with the conversion, shall we say? We've got a gravity well here, an innie, not an outie, guarded by a YBS. Why do you do that? That gravity well could move and or could turn into a two-way wormhole at some point in the future. Why not have a YBS there? Besides, it works on your base distribution. We have other fleets, a majority of fleets doing exploration, which is phenomenal. And if we take away the ships real quick, again, base construction happening down here. Lots of good. Again, the Kzinti are in this exploration mode, and they're doing really well. They're number 4 on the economy ladder, remember, with 80 EP. And considering they're not the most aggressive at this point faction, they're doing really well. Of course, they do need to be mindful of the Klingon expansion that's coming down the left side of the map. I imagine there will be a contact point somewhere around here, but we'll have to see. Let's look at the Federation, our boys in blue. Now, you can see they've established some, obviously, the trade with the Kzinti, now trade with Wadib, with the Gorn faction up here, which is phenomenal. They're about to establish trade with the Lyrans here in a moment. And other than that, we have unstable wormhole for the hotel wormhole. Interesting. And but remember, the Federation, they have a large economy, but they don't have a large fleet. So when we look around, most of their fleet is conducting exploration. We have a commercial convoy heading probably to this planet. There'll be trade there shortly. Looks like there's a Paravian commercial convoy heading down this way, so they'll make contact with a Paravian. This will be interesting. A Paravian YDK. I'm curious, Daniel, question for you. If you have a trade agreement with a faction and that faction disappears or is conquered, what happens? I'm imagining the trade route disappears, but if you control both ends of the trade route, or like one of the ends of the trade route, would you just take over that trade route? I'm curious. Something we've never dealt with yet, but we may soon. So it would be very interesting to know. Okay. Very, very interesting. Okay, so that's the Federation as we scroll over here as well. Notice the exploration. Let me see. Is there base building? Oh, not yet. Exploration pushing hard into this corner to address and deal with the Hydran exploration. And I'll take a second here, move my head over, and start talking about the Hydrans real quick. So remember, the Klingon lost in space. I'm thinking Pigs in Space from the Muppets. So Lost in Space over here, this is the Klingon wayward fleet. I'm not sure, I can't remember if they moved or not, but they're nonetheless here. And you have Hydrans making their way to them in one way or another. Bases being constructed, YDK nearly finished. And of course, these are all exploration fleets conducting exploration, pushing up into this area. As we go down south here, you can see, of course, we've got the Gorn faction, Happy Plus. I'm wondering how quickly they will be incorporated into the Hydran Empire versus a trade route, which is interesting to note. The Tau over here, still unhappy with our Hydran friends, unfortunately. And more exploration and expansion going on along this border. I'm noticing 3 hexes explored here. I'm curious, shall we be upgrading this YBS into a YDK to facilitate maybe moving in? I'm not sure. I mean, maybe the Hydrans and the Borak should have a chit-chat soon. And as you can see, just lots of exploration happening on the Hydran front very, very well, or happening very, very well. Very interesting. Okay, whoa, I see lots of chitter-chat here. Let me slide back so we can all follow along with what's going on here. All right. So Julian says, my question for the Lyran and ISC player would be, what do you expect to get out of it? The Carnivon are the main reason for success, so they are going to demand the biggest slice. Interesting. To be fair, we don't know we don't have an inside view of the negotiations between the 3 factions, so who knows how that's all going to go down. But it would be reasonable, to expect that the faction with the 2x size military and nearly that economy would demand a larger slice of the pie, right? We'll see. Bill, what others get, I will not discuss. Only mine. This can be done later in diplomacy after the show. Well, Bill is willing to spill the beans, one might say. Daniel says, trade goes away if an indie world is conquered. Remember, conquering a world makes them hate you. You can't trade with an unfriendly world. So here's the question, though. If you are, for example, the Borak. Oh, here's a question. Okay, so here's a follow-up question. All right, let's think this out real quick. The Borak are successful in their Paravian assault. They take the Paravian homeworld. The Paravian homeworld is now Borak owned. There was a trade route, let's say, prior to this, between the Federation and the Paravians. Does that trade route disappear? It's not that the Paravians hate the Borak, even though they do at that point, or the people of that planet do, but they were trading with the Federation. Now, the Borak and the Federation don't hate each other necessarily, so would they be able to maintain that trade? Second question, what if you relocated your homeworld to another faction's homeworld? So the Borak relocate their homeworld as a means of survival to the Paravian homeworld after they conquer it. What happens then? Would a trade route be maintained or be reestablished, or what? I'm just asking the question. I feel like I know the answer, but or at least there's a logical route to that answer, but I'm just asking because I'm asking. All right. Interesting. Interdasting, he says. Okay, so we've talked about the Hydrans, we talked about the Feds, we talked about the Lyrans. Let's slide over to our good rocky friends, the Tholians, and then we'll get into the meat and potatoes. All right, here we are. We are the red rocked folks. Here we can see, with all excitement and delight, that we have a little minor irritant that's come in out of the vast darkness of the fog of war. Looks like Battle Squadron 312 is preparing to engage. Battle Squadron 312 is this one here with a cruiser, 4 destroyers, and a YPC. So that'll be more than enough to be able to deal with that little pesky pesky foe. We've got some diplomats with a YPC trying to make things copacetic with our Happy plus Vudar, just a skip and a jump away from being part of the Empire. And then we have, and this is the big thing, I'm concerned for the Tholians around that Klingon buildup and what's happening here. So we can see that the Tholians have explored, if we take away the ships real quick, they've explored the hex into this wormhole. So it is now open, so to speak. Fourth Fleet from the Tholians has not much in it. Exploration fleet, destroyer, and basically stuff that tow around the exploration freighter. However, First Garrison has something in it. Tholian, First Garrison. Oh, maybe they don't. So that's First Garrison there. That's nothing. That's basically the same as Fourth Fleet. So these two guys are nothing. Home Fleet. Where are you? Home Fleet. Ah, there we are. Okay, so Home Fleet has 3 cruisers, 16 destroyers, 4 YPCs, and then these tugs. So let's see, 16 plus 4 is 20, plus 3 is 23, plus a commando ship, 24, and then I'm not counting those 3 YPCs. But yeah, so basically what this looks like is a blocking fleet. Now, hopefully, they'll be able to move Home Fleet onto there and build a base on it, toot to sweet. But I would imagine if the Klingons were so inclined to make their way through the wormhole, then they would, could, and arguably should do that before the completion of any base. If I'm the Klingons, I want to do that most likely as soon as possible to establish a foothold on the other side of that wormhole. Even if I'm not going to invade Tholian space, assuming I want control of the wormhole on both sides, if I'm the Klingons and I've got the oomph and the tech advantage that I have as of right now, if I'm the Klingons, I come through the wormhole this turn, obviously there'll be some reaction movement. The reaction movement that the Klingons, I think, can easily soak up and eliminate, push the Tholians out of the way, and build a YDK on that side of the wormhole ASAP. The only thing, and the question I would have, and that might limit this from the Klingon perspective, do they have the ability to draw supply through a wormhole? If they don't, that won't work. Once they do, watch out. So that's sort of the big thing for our Tholian friends. All right, what else we got here? So again, exploration happening up and down the coast. We have predominantly exploration around where our bases are being built. I imagine that the Tholians will probably want to build a base right where this convoy is, and so on. Boulder Force, 314 Battle Squadron. What is going on with the Boulder Force? Is this like Mighty Morphin Power Rangers? Is that what's going on here? Battle Squadron, 314. So it's 3 DDs and 3 CPCs. Okay, nothing too crazy. And there's no base or anything there. Okay. So the Tholians, the big thing on the Tholian docket and or plate is the issue around the Klingons. The Klingons, just by the size of their empire and their military, represent a potential, not necessarily determined, but a potential existential threat. If they come through that wormhole, it's an existential threat. Ooh, okay, so I see a whole bunch of interesting chitter-chatter. Let's slide back to the chat, and then we'll jump into the Paravian Borak encounter scenario. All right. So Daniel says, trade is between governments. If a government falls, the trade treaty is null. I'm assuming that is feel free to reestablish trade routes after taking a homeworld. Question for you. The Silk Road, historically, just as a context, I mean, I know it may not match with our rules and, the rules are the rules, and I totally get it. But just as an idea, throwing it out there, the Silk Road was a very valuable trade route, understandably, between the Western world at the time and the Far East. And those trade routes were established and maintained for centuries. And the Middle East was obviously the in-between. That's why the Middle East got so rich. But those trade routes were maintained over long periods of time with the rise and fall of different governments and empires. So I'm curious if in the future, perhaps, a conversation can be had around what or how would we do it? Would or should we do it? And what would it look like if we made trade a more robust feature in the game? I don't know, but just an idea. All right, Bill says, if the Borak and Fed had a trade route, then Borak homeworld moves to the Paravian space, new homeworld for Borak. Is that what you mean, Tony? No, but that's a good question. So if the trade route had been between the current Borak homeworld and the Federation homeworld, if the Borak homeworld moved to a new location, i.e. where the Paravian homeworld is now, would the trade route be maintained in some way, shape, or form, or would it be like what would that look like? I don't know the answer, just an idea. Would be fun to explore expanded trade rules, Daniel says. Dell says, nah, conquer them. About 3,000 years, more or less, is the Silk Road on the Silk Road thing. Yeah. All right. Anyways, just ideas, just throwing out ideas. Okay. So we spent a lot of time looking at what was on the map for the Borak, or at least in that nugget of space. Let's dial in on Paravian space. Oh, baby, the blue is expanding. I know. It's water. It's like osmosis. It just kind of expands to fill the void. So let's talk about the void. Let's segue ships real quick. So I'm going to use the supply menu and Paravian supply. And I'm going to set Paravian supply at 3. Good. So this is an example of what Paravian supply looks like and their reach. These two planets are, and I guess this base, these two planets and that one base are the two things that are sort of extending supply really into this area. Without those two things, or those three things, I should say, 1, 2, 3, Paravian reach really gets limited. Also to note that when the Borak first entered into this sector, or this area of space, there were bases all around here. And almost to the turn, every turn we have, or the Borak have eliminated approximately 3 bases a turn. There was the first turn, obviously, where we came in and popped the base under construction. I don't count that. But then after that, there were just a series of bases we were destroying. Notably, there's a bunch of YBSs that were eliminated, but 2 YDKs that were eliminated. One was in Gulf 56, right here, and there was another one, I want to say in Charlie 58, something like that. So 2 YDKs destroyed, a boatload of bases eliminated. In this past turn, the 3 bases that were destroyed, there was one in Echo 59, right there. There was one in, don't do that. There was one in Echo 57 right here, and there was a YDK in Gulf 56. Those 3 bases were destroyed, and now, as I bring up the ships, this is what things look like. It's a lot. So what do we have here? We have a YBS with a not insignificant number of ships here. 2 YCAs, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 FFs, and a tug, and 2 YCAs. So this is not an insignificant number of ships, but based on what's arrayed against them, probably not enough to hold off this particular YBS. But we'll see. We'll see. So there's that. And keeping in mind, looking at the entire picture here, where are all the ships? Well, there's a couple here. There's 2 here, a frigate and a cruiser. A random frigate up here. A tug up here. Again, battle tug. They're really good. A cruiser over here, a survey ship over here, another tug. Like, there's a smattering of little ships, but the concentration and the vast majority of all the ships they have are here. We have the 7 ships that are listed here, and then the stack that is here. Now, to make it a little bit easier for total sort of mathing out, let's look at compots. It'll be easier to figure out. It'll take a second for it to populate here. Give it a sec. And then I'll pull up fleet cap in a second as well. So for math purposes, for all you following at home, we have 2 fleets here, Falcon and Eagle, and then there's some other miscellaneous ships here. So let's look at Falcon and Eagle real quick. And I'll use a compact because it's easy to find them. So Falcon has 17 ships in it with a total attack factor of 37 attack, 60 defense. That's Falcon fleet. Now I'm going to pull up Falcon fleet just so you can see something about Falcon and Eagle as we go. So there's Falcon. Notice how many cripples it has. It has 8 crippled frigates, 3 non-crippled frigates. But it has 5 cruisers and a light cruiser. So nothing. The next fleet is Paravian Eagle fleet. Again, pretty decent. So we'll look up here, Eagle fleet. 7 ships, 15 attack, 24 defense. Now look at this. There is a total of 5 frigates in this, all crippled, a cruiser, and a dreadnought. Dreadnought's key because it has command factor. That's really good. Now, I'm going to pull up fleet cap just to help me out with the last little numbers. So you were tracking along at home. Remember, 7 ships in Eagle fleet with a 15 attack, 24 defense. Write this down. And then Falcon fleet, as I go down to F, has 17 ships, 37 attack, 60 defense. Got that? All right. Now, the other component that we're not including is this hex is Golf 60. Golf 60 in the hex alone has a total of 8 ships with a total of 18 attack and 23 defense. What does that include? That includes 3 FFs, a CA, a CL, and another, another FF. So there's a total of, it looks like, so there are 6 frigates, a cruiser, and a light cruiser on the hex. Again, total of 8 ships, 18 attack, 28 defense. So we got Falcon fleet with 3760. We have Eagle fleet with 1524, and then the random ships of 1828. All right, following at home. Last thing, on the Paravian Capital, we also have a YDK, which is an 816, and 5 planetary ground bases, 5 attack, 10 defense. Remember, planetary ground bases, they can use 4 total EP, or 4 factors in each battle, and the EW gets contributed. So basically, they can get a 2-point shift EW-wise in a battle that they fight. Fair? Okay, so we've done the math on how many ships they have and what's all there. So what's arrayed against them? What ships are in the vicinity? Okay, well, we've got Red Dragon fleet here. So let's just pull up, I'll pull up Red Dragon fleet. Borak. Red Dragon. I'll just put that over here. So Red Dragon is 3 command cruisers, a total of 8 cruisers. Again, 4-6, all of them. 4 uncrippled frigates and 2 crippled frigates. There's also another 2 crippled frigates in the hex. So there's a total of 4 crippled frigates, 4 uncrippled frigates, and then the rest. One thing to note about crippled ships or crippled frigates for the Borak, whether they're crippled or uncrippled, the attack factors are the same. So you might have a battle line with, let's say, let's say you could command 10 ships, so you could have a total of 11 ships. So let's say you have 11 ships in a battle line, including the command ship, 3 of them being frigates. If they're uncrippled, the total attack factors are the same if those 3 frigates were crippled. So the attack factor won't change over time necessarily when it comes to the frigates getting crippled, but it will for the Paravians, if that makes sense. Okay, so Red Dragon. There's also Takesis fleet, which is right here. Let's take a look at Takesis fleet. There we are, Borak. Takesis fleet. I love Takesis. Such a great name. All right, so Takesis fleet has a command cruiser, YSR, 2 YFFs, a crippled YFF, a tug, and another 2 okay, so a total of 4 YFFs, 1 crippled, a YSR, a YCC, and a tug. No big deal. And a prime team. Okay, no big deal. So we've got Takis's fleet doing its thing. We got Red Dragon doing its thing. And then we have this stack of ships here as well. Another command cruiser, along with 5 uncrippled frigates and 2 crippled frigates. Okay, fantastic. So that's sort of what's arrayed here. And keeping in mind, this is where the homeworld is. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Looks like this fleet, Takis and Red Dragon, are all the fleets that could potentially reach the Paravian Capital. Those are all the ships that could potentially reach there. Now, if we were to assume that they could, again, assuming, and you know what you can do with assumptions, if we assume that they could do that, then we look at Red Dragon and Takis's fleet together. So let's go to R for Red Dragon. Red Dragon fleet, remember, copy at home. That is a total of 18 ships with a 52 attack factor, 88 defense. That's Red Dragon. Then we go to Takis's fleet. Takis's fleet is 8 ships, 13 attack, 32 defense. 13 attack, 32 defense. And then, on top of that, we're going to pull up the Borak, and we have Echo 57. Echo 57 has a total of 8 ships in it with an 11 attack, 25 defense. And then there's just these 2 miscellaneous ships here that we'll add to. So that's GG 57, which is 2 ships with 2 attack, 4 defense. So you add that all together. I will leave you to do the math. You tell me what you see. Write in the comments as we peruse some of this stuff what you see. If, big if, those 3 groups of ships, predominantly, that group of frigates and the command cruiser, Takis and Red Dragon, those folks, if they all converge on the Paravian Capital, what do you think happens? Keeping in mind, the Paravians, because they're on the defense, they have the base, they have the planetary ground bases, they have the EW advantage. Do you think they can win defending the planet? Do you think the Borak could win taking the planet? There's a lot of other stuff involved. You let me know what you think in the chat. While you're doing that, I'm going to slide back and go into the chat because you guys have some things that you're saying. Okay. Julian says, Silk Road persists because it was particularly valuable. It was particularly valuable as compared to the trade in more mundane goods. In the game, trade is not unique or special, is not as unique or especially valuable. It's generic for everyone. Fact. So yeah, if you had like specific valuable resources like dilithium or whatever, whatever the special resource was, maybe that would make it different. That'd be an interesting thing to think about. Bill says, true, Julian, but remember, GM has to track all these metrics. So if we added 5 trade items, you could find or make with 10 players. That's a minimum of 50 or more things that the GM has to track. Fact. One of the things about this game is we've made changes to the rule set to make it easier to run the game. For example, in the previous game, we had capital systems which had 3 planets in them, or the equivalent of 3 planets in them. A home planet, usually a minor planet, and a colony, and they sort of evolved over time. But the problem with that is that in the rules for capital assaults, it becomes very problematic, and in a play-by-mail or email kind of game, it was logistically cumbersome to be able to process battles of homeworlds, and eventually those happened. So, with that said, we chose to eliminate that as a problem by not making multi-system hexes. We instead of having 1 hex with 3 planets, we created 3 hexes with 3 planets in close proximity to them, like touching each other at the beginning of every game. So it just makes it easier to process, manage, and deal with when it comes to dealing with battles. Eugene says, who has initiative? Does the survey ship into Takis allow extended reaction? So the initiative is the Boraks. They have 71.5 EP versus the 73 EP of the Paravians. So the Borak have initiative. The survey ship does not provide EW, and therefore does not provide extended reaction. But that wouldn't be an issue either way, because in the sense that if the Borak have initiative, there's no extended reaction sort of to come into play. However, the Paravians have extended reaction. So if we slide back to the map real quick, if we take away the ships, they have a base, and of course they have a YDK here as well. But these two bases provide extended supply. So for example, let's say you had a bunch of ships move in and sit on GG58, because we don't want to attack the capital. We just want to attack this base. All these ships theoretically could use extended reaction and go 1 into GG59 and then reaction into GG58 and have the big battle there. That could be very interesting. Is that how it's going to go? So there's a couple of different ways this could happen. You could either A, ignore the capital and just, like Red Dragon could destroy this base, Takhisis could destroy this base, and maybe go in and attack this YDK. These frigates, 1, 2, 3, 4. So Red Dragon could blow up this base. This fleet could blow up this base. Takhisis could destroy this planet and maybe attack this. So we could blow out all the bases surrounding them, and by doing so, impair their economy. Or, here's another idea, what if I just put ships all around the capital, thereby blocking supply? All I need is one ship in each hex. So one there, one there, one there, one there, one there, one there. You put a ship in every hex, and the capital, the economy doesn't change. So let's say, for example, I left a ship in, I took out this base, and I take that planet. So I'll take the planet. That'll affect initiative. But they still have their macro economy, but I'm isolating supply from the homeworld, meaning that none of the EP gets to the homeworld. They can't spend it to repair ships, build ships, or anything else. Yes, the homeworld makes money, 10 EP or whatever, depending on its happiness level, but I could isolate them that way and starve them out in like a true siege. I could do a straight up attack. I could attack this YBS and draw a reaction movement away from the capital. There's so many options. Like there's so many different ways this could go. And here's a question. Is it even worth it at this point to attack the capital? Because again, the capital is highly defended. You've got planetary ground bases and YDKs there, or a YDK there. You've got a bunch of ships. Like there's a lot of ships there that can defend it. So there's a lot that goes into potentially defending that base or defending that capital. If I were, as the Borak, to attack, what advantage is there? Or do I think there is a reasonable chance that I could win that fight? And if I do, or if I can, what happens then? There's a lot of things to consider. And what it all looks like in the end is going to be very, very interesting to see. Bill Smith says Tony has 4 supply, by the way. Okay. So we'll see. We'll see. It's a very interesting and dynamic situation. But here's the question for you. And I know at least one of you is good with graphs. So when you see everything that's happened, you see the math that I've mapped out for you when it comes to the Paravians versus the Borak. Do you think A, let's slide back. Here we go. Do you think A, the Paravians can successfully defend their homeworld? Or do you think the Borak will successfully take it? What do you think the chances are of that, one way or the other? Because again, roles are a factor. EW is a big factor. How is that going to look? One thing I would consider on that first question is the number of crippled ships the Paravians have. Because remember that for crippled ships, they you just destroy them, right? So they have some uncrippled frigates and so on, but once they cripple those ships, once you start crippling ships and then you have to destroy them, the calculus on your combat changes dramatically, because all of a sudden you start losing boatloads of ships. And in the progression, usually that means your compot or your total attack factors that you're generating dramatically crashes, because you have, for example, with the 2-3 frigates, they go to 1-2 and then they go to 0, obviously. So you have a compot where you have, double the amount of attack factors from frigates, then it gets reduced by that half amount, and then the ships are just destroyed. Keeping in mind that when you look at Falcon, Eagle, and everything else, the number of cruisers relative to everything else, it's an interesting number, especially when you compare against the number of ships that are going to be potentially attacking them. So, yeah, the Borak have a lot. There are some crippled frigates for sure, but there's a lot of uncrippled frigates, more than the Paravians have. How do you think that's all going to work out in the end? Bill says Tony has force supply, by the way, and then near run thing, fun to watch. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. So here's the second question: do you think they should even attack the homeworld? Because despite everything that's happening, it's a kind of a hard target, right? So should the Borak waste their resources by attacking the capital? Should they better use their resources by destroying bases and infrastructure and trying to isolate the Paravian homeworld from the capital? Maybe. Bill says this should be a Saturday show in itself, where Tony and or Derek with Daniel live stream it in real time. Well, that would be a great idea, except I know that Derek won't do that. So it'll be very interesting to see how it goes one way or the other. So attack the homeworld, yay or nay? If we do attack the homeworld, who do you think comes out on top, Borak or Paravians? Here's the second question: do I even bother attacking? Do the Borak even bother attacking the homeworld? Do they instead hit other targets instead, other points of contact, and drive the economy lower? One thing to think about as you degrade the economy or the enemy's economy, as you degrade it, the initiative may change. And once the initiative changes, that's going to dramatically change the color of this conflict. It's going to make a big, big, big difference. Don't get me wrong. I think that being on the latter half or the back end of a fight can be extremely advantageous. But in this scenario right now, when I've got the Paravians, the Borak have the Paravians sort of on their heels a bit, it's challenging. Challenging for the Paravian player to effectively predict what the Borak is going to do, because the Borak have lots of options. They have lots of ships and lots of capability to do a lot of different things. And the Paravians don't know, the player doesn't know what I'm going to do. And they have to sort of guesstimate the best approach for them to defend themselves, if that makes sense. Julian says, idea for trade. Trade value is determined by the number of planets. So value could increase over time, but not persistent in case of conquest. That's an idea we could bat around, as Bill says. All right, so what do you think? What do you think as we are evolving through this story? What do you think as we are talking about potential conquest and activities? What do you think when it comes to the right strategy that the Borak should employ to win? Now, remember, the stakes are high here. Obviously, the Paravians are sort of fighting for their capital and survival, but so are the Borak. The Borak are facing extinction if they stay in their neck of the woods, as in up north. The only path to survival for the Borak is effectively this one, which means, how are we going to do this? How are we going to take this to the final step? It's going to be a doozy. It's going to be very, very interesting how this all evolves going forward. I think it's going to be, depending on what the Borak decide to do, there's a lot of options. But either this turn, next turn, or the turn after, we'll know no later than 3 turns from now. So by turn 70, as this is turn 67, no later than turn 70, we know the future of the Borak. Will the Borak be and the Paravians? Will the Borak survive? If the Borak can take and hold the Paravian Capital, they will survive. If they can't take it, and therefore not hold it, and blow their resources, like all the ships they have, in the process of trying to take it, it's done. Like, the Borak won't be able to recover from that catastrophic failure. And the Paravians will. The Paravians, because we're right on their homeworld, they can build ships and come back from that. I don't think it's realistic that the Borak will be able to recover from that. Yeah, the 2EW shift is really scary. There's no doubt about it. So yeah, it's gonna get dicey one way or the other. Yeah. So anyways, that's the scenario, my friends. What do you think? How do you think that this battle royale is going to evolve? What do you think about what and where these conflicts should take place, how it should be resolved, and what is going to happen? Leave your comments below. Chat away as you may. And of course, if you haven't already, you could be like Faru, hit the subscribe button, get us past 390 to the magic 400. That's what I'd love to see happen if it's possible, if there's hope, if there's a wish that this week we could go from 390 to 400. That would be a phenomenal improvement, nearly 10%. We could see what happens. So tell 2 friends, share the word, get people watching this phenomenal show. Of course, I'm biased. And let us know what you think. And of course, if you've been watching us for some time, if you've lasted this long, nearly 2 hours into the broadcast, then you can hit that QR code, head over to Coffee, and you can be like our various friends here who have fired coffee at us to either one time support the show or join us for the Coffee and Discord tier, where you can join us on the Discord channel and partake in the witty banter, the back and forth, and the repartee that will happen here momentarily. All right. With that said, thank you very much, everybody. I will see you on the flip side, and bye for now.